So what are the features of Audience Measurement 5.0 and when will we see it? I think there are several. The first is that it will be platform neutral. We will measure audiences wherever those audiences are and whenever they're exposed to media or advertising content. I mean, if you think about the way we watch television now compared to a few years ago, it's quite different for a lot of people, where once we might have watched it live on a television set in the living room with our families, today you can watch video content on your phone, on your tablet, on your computer, you can stream it over the internet, you can watch catch-up, all, if you like, competition with traditional live television viewing. So lots of different ways we can do it. And if you read newspapers, you can read them on your phone, you can read them on your computer, as well as reading them in print. And for radio, you can listen to podcasts of the content at your convenience. So audience measurement has had to keep up with all these changes in behavior, and actually it really has. We have developed methodologies and technologies which can track, for instance, television audiences from pretty much any device, whether the viewing's live or time-shifted, whether it's streamed or broadcast, and whether that viewing takes place inside or outside of the home. And the same sort of thing applies to radio and out-of-home audiences. We really do know how to measure them. So a second requirement for Audience Measurement 5.0 is that it should be easy for respondents to take part in studies. Now, a good example of this is Ipsos's passive electronic measurement tool, MediaCell. In what we call passive simplicity, instead of asking people, as happens in most countries, to try and remember the radio listening they did and to tell us about it, what we do is we install a special code into the audio signals being broadcast by stations. We then load an app into the panel member's smartphone, which can detect those codes automatically whenever the phone is within audience range. So all we ask people to do is to keep their phones with them, to keep them switched on and charged. That's it. They don't have to remember anything. And because they carry their phones with them anyway, we're not really asking them to do anything difficult or unusual. So I think big data is the third component of Audience Measurement 5.0. There are lots of different kinds of big data. So if you imagine every time you switch on the television or change the channel, it's sending an electronic instruction to the set-top box. And we can track all those instructions to effectively be able to report on tuning second by second through these set-top boxes. We can also look at the data generated by internet streaming requests for catch-up TV or internet-delivered video via the Wi-Fi routers. The fourth feature of Audience Measurement 5.0 is it will be hybrid. In other words, a mix of big data from all these different sources and sample-based information, which turns data on devices to data about the people using those devices. So the set-top box data on television audiences, to give you the example I mentioned earlier, can be attached to a household. It tells us all about the set tuning, but not about who's in front of the set. The last major feature I would mention is how data science will play an increasing role. All these disparate strands of information have to be joined together, and the people we call the maths men can do this using clever statistics and algorithms. So in my opinion, the technology and the methods for Audience Measurement 5.0 are largely in place to measure everything we need to measure today. They're not perfect and they'll get better, but fundamentally they have been developed. Unfortunately, the fact that they've been developed doesn't mean that they'll always be deployed. It's been said that everybody likes progress, but nobody likes change. And in practice, this can hold things up for a considerable time. The ratings, if you think about it, are really the lifeblood of the media being measured. So when new methods are introduced and the numbers change, this can be very disruptive. Even the possibility that a broadcaster's place in the rankings, for example, will fall could have a negative impact on their willingness to pay money for a new system. Because after all, they don't want to lose out commercially. So politics is a very important part of the decision. The other obvious barrier to change is cost. Progress in audience measurement usually involves measuring more platforms, reporting more quickly and more frequently. Generally speaking, it's also getting harder to persuade people to participate in surveys and panels. So the bad news is that this will cost more. The good news is that it can be done, and in some places is being done.